I know English, but I can't speak in English. Majority of the time, whenever we discuss with each other, we all repeat the same sentence. From this thing, one thing is very much clear, that we belong to that very group, or majority of us belong to that very group who know English, but they don't dare to speak or converse in English. So that way, I would say that our problem is 50% as compared to those who say that they don't know English, because that way they have to cover two different steps. First is to know about the language, and second is after knowing about the language, then daring to speak. Because speaking is altogether different from knowing a language. That we all admit. I can justify it by giving you one example. We have passed through that phase and we see it in our families, that whenever a child is born, child is small, up to 2 years or 3 years, the child is not sent to the school for learning. But that child immediately picks up the language of the parents or of the family. Child has not been tutored about that language. He or she has not been made to learn to write, etc. Even then the child starts speaking that language. So it means that knowing the language is one thing, but speaking is altogether a different thing. Now what to do? Speaking comes with speaking, this thing is for sure, but from where to start with? Because I am at a stage where I know English, but maybe I am not able to frame the sentences, or maybe that I can frame the sentences, but I cannot dare to speak that content. So let's start from very initial stage, that how to start speaking in English, that where from we should start it. I would like to take you back to your school days. If I think about my school days, I remember when at that phase when I encountered with this language, I remember at that time we were made to write the essays on table, a chair, my father, my mother. Why don't you go back to the school days and start making the sentences this way? Whatever is visible to you, whether it is your pen, it's your copy, it's your some almirah, or it is a table, or it is a chair, or it is your PC, laptop, your mobile phone, start framing simple sentences on that. And if I go back to my school days, I know I used to write an essay on chair, and that would have been like, I have a chair. It is made up of wood. It has 4 legs. It has 2 arms. This kind of thing. So I advise you, if you are at that stage, that start forming sentences this way. And if you will keep on practicing this way, by taking any article, anything in your mind, and start framing sentences related to that, so after a couple of days, you would definitely find a change in yourself. This is about framing the sentences. If we want to speak in English, the initial stage, the first thing is that you should have the sentences to speak about. Okay, now how to start speaking? I would suggest one thing parallel to it, that if we want to speak in English, we must listen to English content. But here I wouldn't say that you start listening to the native speakers, because you start from a very simple stage. As you have started writing with the very simple sentences, by making very simple kind of sentences, similarly start listening to very simple content. So instead of listening to complicated or those kinds of content where you are unable, or you find yourself unable to understand the accent of that content, better you listen to someone with whom you can resonate. Any Indian speaker or the person who speaks the way you can easily understand. This listening is very important, as I gave you the example of a baby, that a baby learns the language just by listening. What are the benefits of listening? That by listening, we get to know about the vocabulary. So you can jot down the words, you can note down the words when some person is speaking. Another thing is you get to know about the pronunciation of that word, that how that word is actually, or in what exact way it is pronounced. This pronunciation is also very important component of speaking skills. And the third benefit of listening to English content is that you would get to know that in what context that word has been used. So start listening this kind of content. That would give you lots of benefit, I feel. Now, how to make sentences and start speaking, because we talked about making sentences, then we talked about listening. But when to speak, when to start speaking? You start speaking about your own routine or whatever you do the whole day. Normally, people say that I don't have any partner to talk to. Then how can I speak? Here I would like to say, in the initial phase, which is your beginning phase, at that time, don't look for any partner or don't look for anybody who is better than you, because you might be thinking that how to make out your errors or your flaws or your mistakes that you would make. I take it in a positive sense that in the initial phase, when you don't have anybody who would interrupt you while you speak, there are the chances that you might lose your confidence. There are the chances that you might get stressed. So then there are the chances that whenever you would speak in the presence of that person or with that person, you may fumble. You may make mistakes which you may not do when you will be doing the practice at your own. So in the initial stages, you start doing the practice without looking for any partner or any mentor. Important thing is first you build up your confidence. Building up of confidence in the initial phase is very important. Once we become confident, then it becomes easier for us to handle the language. I remember when I started working on my communication skills, I started from taking the classes from the expert tutors. So that was, I don't think that was a right kind of step initially to begin with, because almost 50%, during 50% of my those sessions, my situation would have been like that. Whenever my session was planned, a day before that my heart would go pit-to-pat, and for some part of the session I know I would take to become normal. So that way almost 50% of the time was gone. If I would have started initially without taking the help of the experts, and if I would have started doing this practice at my own, so there are the chances that after clearing that phase or after passing through that phase, if then I would have taken the classes from the experts, then I would have come up with the better results. So that way I would suggest you go this way, that start framing simple sentences, listen to simple content in English, and start talking about your own routines. Like I get up at 5 in the morning, then I go out for workout or I do yoga, then I take bath, and then I take my breakfast at this time, and at this time I leave for my school or college or for my work. So before you hit the sack at night, this thing you should make a habit, a compulsory habit for the initial few days, that you start recollecting whatever you have done the whole day. So this way, when you would repeat it for a couple of days, after few days, you would realize that you have become confident and your English has come up at a better level. Then after that, you may start looking for a partner or whatever way you want to go. So till then, practice your English speaking this way. Happy learning.